Mary Kane became president and CEO of Sister City International in October 2011, a nonprofit organization founded by President Dwight Eisenhower. Sister Cities International serves as the national membership organization for individual sister cities, counties, and states across the U.S., uniting a network of nearly over 500 communities that have over 2,100 partnerships in 145 countries on 6 continents. Prior to joining Sister City International, Mary Kane was an executive director with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, where she was responsible for identifying and building business partnerships and strategic alliance for the Chamber. Before joining the Chamber, Mary Kane was the Secretary of State in Maryland, appointed by Governor Bob Urnish, and a former Assistant State's Attorney in Montgomery County, Maryland. In 2010, Mary Kane joined Governor Urnish on the ticket as the Republican candidate for Lieutenant Governor. Mary Kane served on the boards of Suburban Hospital, a member of Johns Hopkins Medicine and Catholic Charities in Washington, D.C. She currently serves as the chair of the board of Mount St. Mary's University in Emmitsburg, Maryland, the oldest independent Catholic university in the country. Mary Kane is a graduate of the Catholic University of America's Columbus School of Law in Washington, D.C., and earned a B.S. in Business and Finance at Mount St. Mary's University. She is a resident of Potomac, Maryland, where she lives with her husband, John. They have 3 children who currently live in Washington, D.C. and New York City. Now, please join me in welcoming Mary Kane.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much for having me here today. Dr. Singh, Marang, thank you so much for inviting me to come back to Omaha, which is such a wonderful city. I've been here before, and I've actually taken a trip to Shizuoka, which is the Japanese sister city of Omaha, with about 65 folks from Omaha. And it's an amazing organization. And let me just tell you, give you a little bit of history. On September 11, 1956, President Eisenhower convened the White House Conference on Citizen Diplomacy. This is where he brought together 40 representatives of government, industry, business, labor unions, education, law, and medicine from all over the country to discuss the most worthwhile purpose there is in the world today, to help build the road to peace and to help build the road to enduring peace. He knew that without peace, there wasn't going to be prosperity. And one of his main concerns was we were still at odds after World War II, specifically with Germany and Japan. So you'll find a lot of our initial sister cities were with Germany and Japan. And I don't know about you, but I think it's kind of worked. We actually buy a lot of cars now from Germany and Japan. We're not fighting anymore. And they will always be our allies. And this is the thing about sister cities. And one of the things that was very interesting when I'm looking at this is why didn't we do this with India as much? It really is, whether India was a democracy and we felt we didn't need to do that, or did we just need to focus on repair in Europe and other places? But we only have about 25 sister cities with India. And for a country as large as India and our country, it really is not good. So I'm here to ask you today to help me build more of these people-to-people relationships, because it actually works. And we've heard a lot about China today. I'm going to tell you a little story about China. And in 2012, President Xi Jinping, he was vice president at the time, was coming over to the United States to visit on a reciprocal visit with Vice President Biden. And the State Department went to him and said, okay, you're going to go to Washington, D.C., and then you're going to go to Los Angeles. And his team came back and said, oh no, he's going to stop in Muscatine, Iowa to have tea with his host family. And the State Department was like, where's Muscatine, Iowa, and what is he doing, and why, what host family? So they came to us to talk about it, and we went back through our records. And in 1985, President Xi Jinping was part of a sister state delegation on agriculture to Muscatine, Iowa. And he stayed with the Dvorak's in their split-level house. And believe me, the Dvorak's could not speak a word of Mandarin, and Xi Jinping could not speak any English. But the bonding that took place was overwhelming. And so he came back in 2012, and actually I was able to go out to Iowa, to Des Moines, for a state dinner that the governor had for him then. And actually the Governor Bramstead was the governor back in 1985 also. And Xi Jinping stood up on that stage and he said, when I think of America, I think of my host family. And I left that dinner thinking great things. And I do read things about China and how, you know, we have to be at odds with China. But I know deep down inside there is this thing about America that he loves. And it's that host family. So you think this is one instance. Well, then he came back again in 2015, and it was for the 70th anniversary of the UN. And he had to go to Redmond, Washington, Seattle, Washington, to visit with Microsoft and talk about cybersecurity. But what you didn't hear about was that he took his entourage that evening after he left Microsoft and went to Tacoma, Washington, into a very underserved high school called Lincoln High School, where he had actually signed the sister city agreement between Tacoma and Fuzhou 22 years before. And he wanted to come back and visit his friends. So he came into Lincoln High School, and all of the students were up there. And he came in, and he's very charismatic, and he stood up and he said, okay, I want to talk to you about something. He said, if we're going to be the two world superpowers, he goes, frankly, we know a lot more about you than you know about us. Which is true. And then he put his arm out, and the curtains opened behind him, and there were all these bookshelves filled with books on Chinese language, history, and culture that he brought for the students at Lincoln High School. And then he said, and I have another gift for you. I brought you 5 ping pong tables. He goes, because before you were born, it was the little ball that turned the big ball. And then for your final gift, he goes, which I haven't discussed with your principal yet, I would like to invite 100 of you to be my guests in China the following year. And 97 high school students went over to be the guest of Xi Jinping. And they were rock stars in Fuzhou when they got to Fuzhou. But you're asking, why is she talking about China? This is about India. Well, in 2015, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping sat down and signed an agreement to build more sister cities between India and China. And that's because Xi Jinping knows that it works, and Prime Minister Modi wants to make this work. So they sat down and they signed an agreement. They're building sister cities between many, many large cities in India and with their folks in China. And I guess the things that they agreed upon were amazing. They're building a yoga university in China. They're doing protocol on health safety regulations. I mean, space cooperation outline. They've put together so many things that they're going to work on. And I'm so proud of the fact that they understand that it's going to take people-to-people relationships to make it work. I'm a little sad that we in the United States and our leaders aren't as proactive anymore, that they've forgotten about what Eisenhower did so many years ago that changed the world, specifically with those relationships between Germany and Japan and the United States. I mean, think about it, 70 years ago we were bombing each other. And how we can turn that much in just a short time in history. Took that face-to-face, people-to-people connections. So I'm here just to say, and I'm not going to take a lot of time because I know I'm in between a reception, a football game, and everybody getting out of here. So I would like you, if you can do this and bring all of these people together, you can build some sister cities between Omaha and places in India. And it will be life-changing for those people. Honestly, it is a life-changing event. You know, when you travel abroad and you get to know people, you understand that they love their country, they love their families, and they want something better for their children. Well, that's what this is about.